What does it really take to build a training empire from the ground up? On today's show, we're exploring the journey behind one of the most successful professional development seminar organizations in the country and AI's current role within that company. We're talking about SkillPath, and we've got the founder here with us today, ready to talk about the journey that SkillPath has taken her on. You ready? Let's go.
The Presentation Whisperer. Real-world tips, expert insights, and proven strategies to make every presentation unforgettable. Now, here's your host, professional speaker, and best-selling author, Rob Jellis.
Today's guest, Denise Dudley, had lunch with Roger Penrose. How's that for an accomplishment? Walked across England from the Irish Sea to the North Sea. Has a ranch with all rescued animals. I sure do appreciate that. And claims she's really good at catching snakes. That I'm not good at. I'm going to let her take it from here. She's got quite a journey to talk to you about. Tell us about your journey.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here. So my journey to becoming what I am today actually involves, we'll talk about the professional stuff. I started out as a clinical psychologist. That's my background. And I was the clinical director of a large corporation of psychiatric hospitals. There was a journey to get there, of course, but we'll skip that part. And then while I was the clinical director, I was also the director of training. So I was the trainer for all 18 hospitals, and I provided all the CEUs. I worked with the administrators and the directors of nursing and all kinds of people. That's how I really got my start as a professional speaker and a trainer. Left there and actually went on the road with a company called National Seminars. That was another one of the big heavy hitters back in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And I became a professional trainer on the road, 5 different major cities every day, planes every night, 3 weeks a month, 1 week off a month. So I was doing the road warrior thing and teaching all kinds of seminars to large audiences, always live. This was pre-internet, pre-AI, pre-everything. Because I'm 110 years old, you can probably figure that out. So yes, I was doing it back then. So I left National Seminars after I went to the inside of it and became the VP there of faculty curriculum and product development, I believe. Lots of drama around this thing, which I won't talk about. Left there with a bunch of other people from National Seminars. We were either kicked out, fired, asked to leave. Life became unpleasant. One way or another, a lot of us left. And the president of National Seminars and I together formed SkillPath Seminars. So we actually went out and started our own seminar company. I was able to negotiate my way out of my non-compete, which I had, as did many other people. And we started SkillPath Seminars, grew it to become the world's largest training organization. And at its peak, when we sold it, we were at $200 million a year in sales, 18,000 seminars a year. That's a lot of seminars a year. If you do the math there and think about, we only have 5 days a week to perform seminars. So that's a lot of seminars every day, a lot of speakers in the air every night, flying from city to city. It was a very busy business. And I sold it and was on the board for quite a while until I got fired from the board, as did all of the, yeah, it's always a good move, isn't it?
Seems to be a cycle. I'm sensing a cycle here.
I get fired a lot. It's because I'm a dick. That's what it is, I guess. Just kidding.
Careful, I'm drinking tea. Keep going.
I'm actually a super nice person, but I do speak my mind. That I do. So at any rate, I got fired along with all of the key personnel at SkillPath who knew what they were doing. That's another bunch of drama that I'll save you. But I got out of SkillPath, sold it, got my money out, and today I've gone back to becoming a professional speaker on the road, a consultant, a coach, and back to being a psychologist. So that's what I'm up to right now.
Wow.
That's the sketch.
Yeah, well, that's some journey. We share a couple things. And by the way, I want you to speak your mind on this show. But I'll tell you 2 things we share. One, you speak to any professional speaker trainer to professional speaker, you're going to talk to a fellow road warrior. I've got a little over 3 million miles in the air. And 2, I had to negotiate a non-compete with Xerox when I left 33 years ago. We left on good terms, but those big companies, they don't like paying their trainers consulting rates. So
Yes.
they're really trying to discourage that with some legal documents. But you know what's wonderful about our industry, Denise? When there can be all sorts of politics, The audience tells the truth. The audience will never lie. And when the audience loves a trainer, companies figure out how to get around non-competes because they're going to lose business if they don't. So,
Right.
yeah, that's what helped bail me out. Let's talk about that this golden age of seminar companies. And I left Xerox in '93, so I think it was kind of the golden age. I was certainly well aware of SkillPath or some of these big companies that were doing the job back then. Uh, Tell me, in your mind, where do you see it now in terms of the world of training and seminars? It wasn't like it was. I'm not whining about it, but let's talk about here and now. Where do you see the path forming now?
Well, so if I could just do a little bit of background to juxtapose it against what is today. Way back when we founded SkillPath, which was 1989. So 89 was the founding of SkillPath. Just imagine that there wasn't you and I probably can't even remember this. And if you have children, they didn't even exist in this era, but there didn't used to be an internet. I can't even remember that now, but there didn't used to be. So way back then in the golden age of seminar companies, there were the major heavy hitters: SkillPath, Fred Pryor Seminars, Career Track, Paget Thompson, National Seminars. There were these names that everyone knew. And well, SkillPath alone has trained over 12 million people. And we're not just saying people who called in or went to 12 million people sitting in seats in basically conference centers and hotels around the United States, Canada, and other English speaking countries. So back then, it was all direct mail marketing. All of it had to go through the mail. Virtually none of it goes through the mail now. Now we're just completely accustomed to receiving offers into our inboxes at work or at home, even. And so the whole idea of how we acquire customers has changed so dramatically, and it will never go back. It will never go back. But a lot of times people will ask me, well, why were all the major seminar companies located in Kansas City? People always think, well, is it kind of like, they're all breeding and they're creating offspring? It had to do with the fact that Kansas City is literally in the center of the country. And our direct mail marketing campaigns were so important, plus all of our money was tied up in that, that we had to make sure that if a brochure
Mhm.
dropped some, and it was advertising a series of seminars. So some of those seminars might be in Seattle, some of those seminars might be in Miami. And we wanted those brochures to drop at the same time so that we would make sure that we were acquiring customers at the exact right space. So we knew everything about, like, when do we want that brochure to hit your desk in relationship to how far out the seminar is scheduled for. We knew all these things, and it was important to make sure that brochures left what were we did our printing locally. We actually had these bulk mail services that went out and sent brochures, excuse me, all around the country, and we wanted them to drop at a certain time. That's why everybody was located in Kansas City except for Career Track, which was in Boulder, Colorado. So I'm just giving a
Mhm.
background of, now imagine today, we don't really do any direct mail marketing. It's all based on the internet. It's all based on offers we can send out. Renting lists. We rented all these mailing lists, of course, people's names, and there were the hot 90-day buyers, and then there were the older ones. They all cost a different amount of money. Our house list, which was, of course, our list of people we owned, so to speak, as customers. The house list was the most valuable thing we could have because we could remail them for free. Now, fast forward to present tense. If we're renting names, we're renting email names. Now, those email names are a lot cheaper, but they're also a lot less responsive. So everything has really changed in the way that we acquire customers. And like I mentioned, it's not going to go back. That's the biggest change. There are other changes too, such as in delivery, which I think we're going to talk about as we talk about how AI has helped us a lot and how we now do so many webinars, we do so much computer-based training. We have really shifted over away from live seminars, although they still do work in certain circumstances.
Yeah. One more quick question about the marketing side of this, because I didn't hear you mention it. And a lot of trainers and speakers, the entrepreneurs, I'm not talking about the in-house trainers, I'm talking about the lone wolves. They're putting a lot into social media as their marketing kind of scheme, be it LinkedIn or something along that line. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You have an opinion about that?
Total thumbs up. Total thumbs up. because I believe what we need to do is we need to be found in as many ways as we can, whether we're a large training organization such as SkillPath or whether we're individuals out there doing our own thing. If you type in my name, I want you to find me in a variety of places. And
Right.
so and I want to be present in all those places. And I also want to look damn good on all those places. So I don't want to, again, well, you need your professional side. If you want to post the picture of your cheeseburger that you ate at lunch, which I always find to be somewhat questionable anyway, like why we're doing that. But if you're wanting to do that, do it on a personal place that people don't watch you from. But everybody really needs to have a professional presence, I would say, on as many social media sites as you can possibly handle.
Yeah. It's funny you say about the cheeseburger. Years ago, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, I had a publicist telling me, you got to blog, you got to blog, you got to blog. And every time I read him, it was, about a guy eating a cheeseburger, kind of to your point. Well, how did trainer to trainer, we live or die up on that stage with what's in it for the customer, right? Whiff them, whiff them, whiff them. So I was so anti-blog that when I finally got talked into it, I said, okay, I'll blog, but I'm creating my own term and I'm going to trademark it because I'm not calling it a blog. I want this to be a blog article. And so I actually trademarked the term blarticle. Okay. And by legal definition, it's not a blarticle, A, if it goes over 750 words, and B, if there isn't a clear message or lesson for the reader. And that is a corporate trainer speaking I just didn't know how to deliver information where there wasn't anything in it for my audience. So to your point.
I agree. Yeah, think of what's in it for the person who's reading it. So
Right.
and I got told the same thing, you should blog. I just don't do that. I write articles anyway. I'm a writer. And I'm
Right.
also come from a science base. So I write articles. They're articles that talk about science and research and all those. So I just don't blog. I release articles that I think would be interesting to my customers and to my readers.
Are you posting them online?
Oh yeah, yeah. They
Oh,
actually, I do a lot of writing. I write for several e-zines anyway, several of them over in the UK. But so I'm writing articles anyway. But when I write articles for my reader base, we post to my website, and then I've got, of course, a bunch of people who are signed up. I have readers, followers, and then we also post to all of my social media sites. Hey, here's an article I just wrote about fill in the blank.
yeah.
So, and then a lot of people get directed to that article as well.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. 17 years later, I got to tell you, I do articles every other week, mainly because I believe I'm OCD-ish. And and it's a compulsion now of every other Friday I will have a article. But I think that sort of that had its time and place. And even what we're doing right now, for me, is a much better approach than a blarticle because a blarticle or a blog or an article we write in a closet somewhere. We write on the plane. We write quietly by ourselves. I like having conversations with other people and learning from them. And I think we're still putting out very valuable information, but we're extending our network while we're doing it a little bit. So I think we've grown through it. By the way, you can use the word blarticle anytime you want, because I think that's what you're doing. I mainly trademarked it because in this world, as you know, and we're cut from the same cloth. I'm not a fan of building something up and having somebody with deeper pockets than me say, that's a good idea, we'll take it. So it was just a protection of anybody use it, just don't stop me from using it. And
Yeah.
away we go.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, burn once you learn. All right, let's swing to the training side of this. You're creating custom training now, and you're using AI powered tools, I believe. Let's start with this is a sales trainer in me. What problem were you solving when you first started incorporating AI? Because that's how we make changes in this world. They don't hit us. It's not a coconut that hits you in the head. You're probably solving something. Tell me what you're solving, how you're doing it.
For me, it's time management for sure. Definitely. I have all the work I could ever want and more. I have all the customers who are very loyal and I love them and I have fun with them and I turn down work even just because I have everything I really want in the world of clients right now. And I like my balance between private clients that I do coaching with and then large audiences I get to stand in front of, which is kind of my favorite thing. So for me, AI helped me with my time management. For instance, I love it. I am such an embracer of this in that For instance, my material, because I told you I'm 120 years old, I've developed my material a long time ago, and I love my material, and I have a lot of it. I've been crafting it since way back when I was that clinical director teaching in psychiatric hospitals. And I wasn't just teaching how to deal with psychiatric patients, I was teaching assertiveness, communication, management, supervision. So I have my material that I really love, and I've had it for a long time. Of course, I update it. It's not that old. I update it all the time. So what does AI do for me? First of all, I work in a lot of different arenas. And if I'm going to teach, we'll say a class on how to do cartwheels, how to do cartwheels. So AI will help me to customize my programs for how to do cartwheels for truck drivers, how to do cartwheels for anesthesiologists, how to do cartwheels for teachers. And I can actually customize that material, change a little bit of how I might give an example or a little bit of my verbiage instantly. It's so helpful. So if I land because I want it to be customized, I never walk into a program and just do the blah, blah, blah. I make sure it's customized for the person or people I'm talking to. So that saves me on that. It saves me on the back end in that my best example, my favorite example recently was that I also teach a lot in Mexico. And I was teaching staff, a large staff, customer service. They were speaking, and I don't speak enough Spanish to do this in Spanish. So I was teaching in English, and I had my materials. I've had them forever, but I was able to customize them to basically the culture of Mexico. And I was also able to, afterward, create a follow-up that what I asked AI to do was, here's all my material, here's what I'm teaching. Will you please create for me a very, we'll call it conversational summary of what we have, well, will have talked about after the class. Put it into kind of a paragraph form where I'm just chatting with the people who were in my class, but it needs to be in English and in very, very simple, direct words. We want to use very simple, direct words because these people are reading English as a second language. It did the most beautiful job, just a beautiful job for each of these series of classes, giving me a handout that I could give that sounded like me in my voice, summarizing everything we talked about. I loved that. It saved me hours, just that little example.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I don't know about you, but and I know people listening, they get a little nervous about AI. I remember when I first went there, I was like, ah, humbug, but I tell you what, sure is nice for titling. That was my entry drug in a sense of I'm stuck. I don't know how to title this chapter or this article, or this piece. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, I'll use AI for that, but nothing more. You'll see. And that got me in. I went, wow, that's really creative. And now I'm saying with you, perfect answer, by the way. It's time management for me as well. I'm monitoring it. I'm changing. Just get me out of my box that I'm in, expand my thinking a little bit. Let me edit what you're giving me, but let's not be afraid of it. It's a very creative and time effective tool.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to add something that is startling me right now. I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who is actually a surgeon, a well-known surgeon, and he also writes a lot. And so we've actually worked together on a few things. And we were chatting yesterday on Zoom, and we were talking about AI, and he was asking me how much I'm using it. And I said, well, you know what? I'm using it for certain things, but my favorite thing I use it for is to title my articles. And he immediately started laughing. He goes, that's exactly what I'm using it for. The titling, the naming of the articles. So maybe we all started that way because I hate titling my articles, and AI is so good at it, and my subtitles for my sections.
Yeah.
That's so weird, isn't it?
It's really weird, but that's what got me hooked. In other words, once I saw that, and it was for a lead magnet of all things I was working on. I have the articles. I write about life. I write about selling. I write about presenting. And I was like, how do I get these three together? It was like 45 quick and powerful lessons in performance, persuasion, and personal growth. And it was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But that's what I mean. How was I going to find that, Denise? How it just wasn't anywhere near. So once it did that, I went, okay, we're going to get along, but I'm still going to keep an eye on you. And I think that's what people need to remember. You don't just turn everything over to AI, but boy, you can lean on it for certain things. It's amazing. But anyway, let's keep rolling down that line. A lot of presenters are using AI, but they're unsure of it because they don't want to lose their voice. And that's the key. How do you maintain, in your mind, authenticity? Let's get past titling, which both of us love. How do you make sure that you stay with that voice? It's still that authentic Rob or Denise voice and leverage the AI at the same time.
So I use AI as we'll call it a co-author. It's not authoring what I'm doing. And in
Right.
fact, anytime I ever use AI, I'm generally, and it's not just because I think I'm better than AI or anything else. I do want my own voice. So I do, and I'm also a writer, and I've been a writer for a very long time. So writing for me is completely natural and it's quick. And by the way, I am a fast typist. I can type almost as fast as I can think. And so I can dictate to, and we can all dictate, but I actually like to sit down and just start typing. And so that's where my voice is, and that's where my voice originates. And then I will often feed something to AI and say, could you improve this or could you help me with this? Now, in reverse, I do it in reverse too. I'll sometimes start with AI and say, I have an idea for an article. It's on, how to do cartwheels, as I said, and it'll say, yeah, great. Here's some thoughts about that. And then I use that to weave my own article. So I never just take something straight out of AI. Even I know several of my colleagues who are corporate people are just using AI, just pure straight. It's going to write my email response to this person and I'm not even going to look at it. I would not take that risk. I don't do that. So I look at everything AI ever produces and then I change it around to my own words or I make sure that it understands my voice. So AI and we get along real well. She's a she in my world. So she and I get along very well and we chat and we're positive and I fed her a lot of my samples and she understands that I want to be humorous but not silly, that I'm science-based 100%. And that leads to another thing, by the way. So the other favorite thing that I do with AI is that because I do update all my information, I've got a big class I'm teaching on Friday. It's a big audience, and I'm going to be teaching a class that I've taught many times, but I want current research on the things that I always talk about. So I will, after we talk today, I'm actually going to go into AI and say, okay, give me the newest research on these certain points that I'm going to talk about because I want the talk. It's at a university, so it has to be science-based and I have to know my research and I can't just say People magazine said. It has to be a real research project. So and real evidence, real studies. So I love that as well. But I never just trust AI to produce anything without my hand over it, with me overriding certain things that wouldn't sound like my style or
Yeah,
my.
I agree. I think what happens is we get a little bit lazy. And I mean, I was a little worried coming into this with AI that my writing mind would atrophy. It doesn't atrophy because we're still writing, folks. But what we have is we have an editor. And if we have books or articles out there, we have an editor that's read everything that we've written and knows our style of writing. So, yeah, the bottom line really is teach AI about yourself and it'll give you a more authentic voice. What go garbage in, garbage out, right? You got to put the good stuff in.
Exactly. No, garbage in, garbage out. And in the world of behavioral psychology, we say random input generates random response. And so it's the same thing. It says, if I just say, "Hey AI," and it doesn't know me, it's going to come out with I don't know what. But she and I have worked together for quite a while now. We've had a relationship. I was an early adopter of this, and
Mm,
so we have a good relationship. We work well together, and she knows my style, which is super conversational. I use contractions. I fed her so much of my writing that she knows my vibe, and very rarely do I have to change the vibe around. Sometimes I just change what she said.
right, right. One thing now let's talk trainer to trainer. And one thing I know about you, and I'm not just blowing smoke your way. I know you're a good trainer. I know you're a good trainer because you're getting butts in the seats, as we call bits. That's the term I've always used. Butts in the seats. You can have the best brochures and website, all that stuff. Butts in the seats, folks. And when people see it and it's real, they'll come and watch it. So let's talk trainer to trainer. For you, what do you think you need to do to truly succeed in front? You're going to be speaking on Friday. Nice, good group. Sounds like you're getting amped up for it, and good on you. What do you think you need to do on Friday to succeed in front of that room?
Well, this is a live group, and it's a group that I do every year. It's the Women's Business Leadership something or other. So I know what the audience will be like. I know these people. This is a kind of a high. You're asking me this specifically to this Friday, and of
You
course,
can switch any day. That's just almost a metaphor for me. What
yeah,
do you
okay,
need to do to succeed as a trainer in front of that room?
okay, in front of that room or any room,
Any room, yeah.
several things, and many of these are going to transfer to if I'm also teaching on Zoom. It's and many will not, but many will. And one of them is, of course, preparedness. I am a professional, and so when I give any kind of a whether it's a keynote or I'm doing a training session, in that hour that I'm doing it, you will not see me look at a note. You will not see me look at my slides other than to make sure they advanced if I'm holding a clicker. I will never read anything. I'm professional. I am prepared. How do you do that? You practice and you rehearse and you know what you're talking about. The other thing is that in case something comes up, and I always offer that audiences should ask me, unless there are 700 people, then I can't take questions. But if I've got 100 people, I say, let's interact a little bit. If you've got a question, please ask it. It's not a Q&A at the end. Ask it. I always say I ask two things of your questions. The first one be that it's related to what I'm talking about. And usually people laugh, but I always say, yeah, it seems obvious, but maybe it's not. And the second thing is if you'll pre-think your question. If the answer to your question is something you think the rest of the audience wants to hear, please ask me. If not, see me afterward. I'll stay here till the cows come home and I'll take all of your questions afterward. I always offer myself up afterward. So I make myself accessible and friendly. I have more information than I could ever deliver within 1 hour because I know that things can come up when questions occur. And I am super prepared. I've trained a lot of trainers, a lot of trainers. And one thing that I think is hilarious is when trainers will go, well, I don't want to rehearse it too much because then it's going to look canned. Sorry, that's under practicing.
Yeah.
You just identified something that means you didn't practice enough because when you're going through the preparation process and you're learning how it is you're going to say things, your turn of phrases, how you're going to pause, what you're going to do. Yeah, in the beginning, you don't even know what you're saying. Then you come through a phase where it feels a little bit canned, and then you work yourself so far beyond that that you are so natural that you're standing up there, and many people think you're saying it as you think of it. You are not. You're never saying it as you think of it. It's rehearsed, but it's rehearsed so well that you are convincing the audience that you are here, you're present, and you are saying it to them genuinely, all of which is true. So
Yeah.
preparation, my God, when people walk in and they're not prepared or they read all their slides or whatever, I just think, you didn't earn your keep on that one.
Yeah.
So
It's like real estate, right? Location, 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 preparation, preparation, preparation. That said, I was the trainer. I trained all the instructors for Xerox for almost a decade. But one of the things that I had to work on them with was sometimes in a corporate environment, not in a professional speaker environment, we control everything here. We're at the mercy of an outside vendor. Curriculum's coming in late. So we do learn survival skills. No survival skill I'll ever teach will say, read that out of the curriculum. But survival skills I will say will be gesture to the PowerPoint slide that you're looking at so you can catch where you're at right now
exactly.
and make sure it's still on the screen properly. But I always laugh because people don't realize, in my opinion, PowerPoint's more for me than for the audience frequently. So I don't need a lectern up there. So I can walk around that stage and come out in the audience, never look at a note for 2 days, 16-hour seminar, but I'm catching where I am from
Yes.
where those slides are. So that's really what I'm tracing.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. That's what we do. And like I said, you glance at it to make sure it advanced if you have a clicker. But other than that, just reading, reading, reading. And also, I guess we could be talking about both in live and Zoom performances. I like really clean materials. The only time that I ever have to put a slide up that has a big graph on it with a bunch of complicated, X axis, Y axis stuff is if I'm teaching a truly technical class to a bunch of scientists, which is another area that I do work in. But otherwise, if I'm working with an average audience, a group of realtors who've come to learn better communication skills, my slides are super clean, very few words. No one needs to stare at a graph that shows why it is you should smile more.
Right.
Just talk about it. So I like super clean graphics. I like super clean everything. I just
Yeah.
like is a clean slate, really.
Yeah, I used to battle that with the financial industry because they said compliance makes us put this, 10-year track record of this fund up. We have to do it by compliance. It's like, okay, so why can't we say, here's what that looks like, 1000, 1002, click, and here's
Yeah.
the part I want you to focus on. So
Yeah.
we get it. So have you ever heard of Logitech makes a great clicker called, I think it's called a highlighter. But what it'll do, instead of just an arrow, it will actually, whatever it points at, it will blow it up in a circle. So
Oh,
really nice product. It'll also highlight, you have a couple different, but I like the blow up. So it's just think of a circle. It actually fades everything out around it by about 2/3, blows up what you're trying to show them. So that'll keep us, even if compliance is riding us on our back, we can say, no worries, there it is. But that's the three numbers we need to focus on today. Yeah, good product. And Logitech, you're welcome, but it's good product. All right, let's coming down the home stretch. You were starting to shift to virtual. Let's shift to virtual. How do you adjust the delivery when when it's a Zoom session?
sure. So I believe, well, sir, there are a lot of things that do change, some for the better and some for not the better.
Mhm.
One of the things, because I, again, come from a research science background, there's a lot of research in how people learn and how people learn the best. And a lot of that has to do with what's called learning theory. And one of the top fundamental characteristics of a good learning environment is safety, both psychological and physical safety. That's one of the things a lot of people don't even know about or think about. But on the upside, when we started moving over to Zoom, and of course COVID advanced this so rapidly, we had this was the only option,
Right.
and so we all became used to it much more quickly. And I believe we embraced it, and we began to prefer it much more quickly because of this era that we've all survived. But if we think about just psychological, physical safety, most of us were actually, I presume, zooming into a training session from we'll assume the safety of our offices, our homes, our bedrooms, wherever we were. So safety and comfort is really one of the things that I believe improved once we were starting to create a lot of virtual training sessions. We'll call them Zoom sessions. And I know that's just a brand, but however you're
It's
doing
like a
it.
Xerox. I'm sure
Yeah.
Zoom's thrilled about it.
Oh, Zoom loves this, and Skype is real sad right now. I don't even know if Skype
Is it
even
still alive?
Skype. I don't know what happened actually. I should look that up. But anyway, so yeah, so safety improved, but there are other parts of social learning theory that talk about engagement. And so engagement dropped. Safety might have improved, but engagement dropped because it's a lot harder to engage people when there are
Yeah.
these little tiny postage stamps. If you have 200 of them, they're, at least on my screen, they're the size of a postage stamp. And so it's very hard to make sure that we've got those people engaged. Now, there's some kind of, again, research. I don't like to quote research that isn't super accurate. And there was some kind of a thing that came out that said, in virtual training, people will get the attention will wane every 240 seconds or some crazy number, which ended up being 4 minutes. That every 4 minutes you need to re-engage the person. Well, I don't know. Every 4 minutes, I don't want somebody jumping up and down and suddenly throwing in a chat bomb or whatever, that every four minutes just thinking that I'm not paying attention. I'd rather give my audience more credit than that. So I do believe that we don't have to change everything every 4 minutes. It's something I read and I thought, I'm not buying into that. Do you remember, I'm digressing, but do you remember there was some kind of research that came out that said people are more afraid of public speaking than they
Yes.
are of death? And I read that and I went, no, you know what? If you're standing on the side of a stage and I hold a gun to you and I say, I will literally kill you, or you walk out on the stage, they would walk out on the stage.
Hey,
So,
Denise, I put that in one of my books some years ago. We went through a legal read.
oh,
As when you go conventional, they'll bring it to lawyers. It's absolutely a wives' tale. It's just not a true statistic. It's an urban legend. It's been dragged around, including by me, by the way. I had it in my book. Snakes number 4. I mean, I remember the list, and I couldn't believe drowning is worse than this. How could
Yeah.
that be? But so anyway, you're right, and it's been legally proven. Somebody dragged that one around. Maybe it was right in like the 1912. I don't know, but not now. Not
Not right
true.
now. Not right now. So similarly, this idea that we're going to lose engagement every 4 minutes, come on, give people more credit. So again, let's go back to learning theory. So we also know that learners are motivated in two ways, intrinsically or extrinsically. This is all important stuff for we who are trainers. So intrinsic is because I want to learn it. I want to learn how to make killer French bread because I want to have great French bread. I want to share it with my friends. I want to wow them at the next dinner party, whatever. That's intrinsic. Extrinsic is I have to sit through this dumb class with this horrible professor because I need my college degree. So, one way or another, we need to engage learners intrinsically or extrinsically through motivating them. And so those things don't change, but how we do it does change. So being a bit engaging, making sure that our voices are positive, making sure that like right now, in order to look like for your audience and for you, I'm looking in my camera. So you're down there. If I look at you, you're down there, but I don't want to look down there. I want to look in my camera. Just learn to do it. Look in your camera. Another thing is that, and a lot of this comes from training newscasters, which I did in San Francisco years ago. For newscasters, we know that we're in a box. It's just a box. And so newscasters are taught, for instance, never touch your face. This is this big giant hand coming up in
In the
your
middle
face.
of touching my face while you're saying that. Go ahead, keep
Sorry,
going.
no. I'm not criticizing, but don't touch your face. It looks gigantic. If you're going to use hand motions, you need to make sure they're up in here so that I know where my box is right now. But if I'm doing it right here and you just see the bottoms of my fingers, it's a little distracting. I know I just did that today several times because I got all excited talking to you. But basically, those sorts of things are professional. Making sure you look in the camera, making sure that your voice is warm and engaging, making sure that you're smiling, making sure that you're basically keeping people engaged because you are fun to listen to.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's common sense, and I'm not telling you I do it right, but when I went and like everyone else, we got thrown into this very quickly. The first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to simulate what it was that was working live. So, for instance, and I know we can do this. This may sound old school to you, but I actually behind me have a 19-inch monitor that
Mhm.
swings out behind me. It just takes about a quarter of my screen, just like normal. If I had a PowerPoint screen, it would be behind me. It's just a very small screen. And I use 130, 140 size font.
Ah,
I can get about 3 good lines on there, about 4 words. Note to self, we should probably be doing that anyway. But I am standing. I have my monitor behind me. I am moving a little bit of movement, and then of course, I'm utilizing breakout rooms, all the things I can do. But I think we got to get out of our chairs. We got to get up. We got to move just like normally, and don't be so afraid to emulate at least some of the live things that are working. They'll work. Uh,
yes.
that's my philosophy of it.
I love it. I love it. And being able to move about because I'm a mover as well. When I'm live on a stage, I don't like podium. The only time I ever am behind a podium is if I do a lot of I moderate a lot of conferences that are technical where I have to
Yeah.
introduce somebody and their bio is I can't memorize their bio. It's so if but I don't like podiums. I never stand behind a podium unless I have to. And so I'm a mover. And so being able to move, I'm sitting here today just because this is how I'm set up in this office right now.
Right.
But I agree, being able to stand, if I'm doing an extended training class, I have my computer on something that will allow me to stand. And so I can actually stand. I move this office around to do that. But
Right.
yeah, standing and moving, it basically simulates how you and I feel when we're in front of an audience.
Right.
Helps us to be energized.
Yeah, even if it's just turning our shoulders a little bit,
Sure.
And by the way, when we're up, usually let's get what else is up. The hands are starting to come up a little bit. That's another thing I have to teach people. A lot of times I'm gesturing right now. You can't see it. Just like you have to figure out, I'm not really looking at Rob to look at Rob. I'm going to
Yeah,
bring my hands a little bit higher, although they'd be slightly
exactly.
lower if I were live, or I'm just going to be a shoulder guy.
Exactly.
We could talk about this forever. Listen, how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, well, let's see. I don't know if you throw that up there on the screen or not, but you can, well, like I said when we first started talking, I think I'm very findable. I'm on all social media. I have a great person named Grace, who's one of my colleagues, and she does all my social media posting for me. And I have a website, denisemdudley.com, where you can find me. You can find my articles we talked about, and I can be booked for whatever, for private coaching, for keynotes, for trading. I love all of it. I have so much fun doing what I do for a living because I love it. I'm so lucky.
Right.
So yeah,
That's the key to this profession. What a great way to bring this in for a landing.
yeah,
We got to love what we're doing up there because that's one that's really hard to fake. And,
yeah.
people, I don't necessarily love sitting in an airport. I'm not, sometimes I'd prefer to be someplace than that little square box of the hotel. But boy, when they call our name and we take that stage, or even that pit in that little 20-person workshop room, that's got to feel like you're walking on air. If it isn't, you might have to go into curriculum development.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go be behind the scenes.
We'll find something for you to do, but not in front of the audience.
I
Listen,
agree.
it's been a pleasure talking to you. I knew I was going to love this conversation, and what I love many things about it is that we got that great journey from SkillPath and to where you are now. But I love talking to you as trainer to trainer, and I just think I can tell why you're booked heavily. But just thrilled to have had a chance to talk to you. Thank you.
Same here. And thanks for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please follow, rate, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. For more resources and to connect with Rob, visit thepresentationwhisperer.com.